No, it's not working. Okay, that's certainly different. Yeah, okay, that didn't work. Okay, I've adjusted my composition just a bit. Good afternoon everyone, thanks for joining me again. Today I am out looking at two new locations. They're places that I've looked at on Google Maps on the satellite view, and they look as if they might be interesting. The first one I'm already at. It's a beach, sandy beach, and there's some rocks kind of sitting just off the beach there. And at the moment we've got some quite nice waves, and it looks like it could be quite a cool location. But I think it might be a sunrise location, because the sun will be rising kind of out over there somewhere, I would imagine. And at the moment the sun is just about to disappear behind these buildings and that ugly crane and things over there. So this might be one to come back to. But I've got another location to go to, which is actually just the other side of that headland. And I'm hoping that that might work, maybe for an evening shot or late afternoon shot. Okay, so this is part of my second location to check out, and basically what you can see here is we've got a cove and there's a number of boats in there. Some of those boats appear to be sort of cherished, well loved, and others appear to be, well, basically wrecks, just the remains of boats, some of them in the water, some of them on the sand. And I was kind of hoping that this might make for an interesting scene to shoot, with the sun kind of setting or low in the sky over there. But I'm not sure how easy it's going to be, because the surface that I'm standing on isn't solid in any way. It's basically dead seaweed over the top of mud. So actually trying to get a stable platform to shoot from is going to be difficult. I was thinking of long exposures. Of course, long exposures is going to blur the boats because they're moving in the breeze. So maybe a long exposure wouldn't be the best way to go anyway. But it's still got some potential. I'm going to carry on exploring. I'm going to have a look at a section over that way as well, to see if there's a way of using another section of water and some more solid footing to get a better composition. It's certainly an interesting place. If I'm going to shoot, I want to shoot that way, because if I come around here we've got all these buildings all the way around. I don't like that. But shooting looking that way might make for an interesting image if I can find a suitable place to shoot. Okay, so I'm really struggling to find a composition that I think will work here, and part of the problem is that I can't get an elevation that will let me get a decent view of the sort of area with the boats in, unless I go basically right up close to them, and then I just can't find a composition that I like. What I am thinking is there's a possible shot kind of this side, but again I've got a problem with the elevation. I can't get high enough, and I'm thinking I might try to do a shot pushing my tripod up, if not as tall as it will go, certainly as tall as I can still put it and stand any chance of being able to compose a shot, and see if it will work. I'll talk you through what I'm thinking, and then maybe I'll set up and take a shot. I don't think I'm going to wait around at this particular point until sunset, because I just don't think the composition I'm getting here is strong enough to warrant that. So the composition I'm thinking of is using this rocky piece heading out, and as it curves around it kind of points over to the area where the boats are, and then there's all kind of reeds and stuff blowing around over there, and then we've got the rocky walls of the cove, the sort of makeshift marina, and then the open sea beyond. No, it's not working. No matter how I try and position the camera, it just doesn't work. The foreground kind of looks okay. I haven't even bothered putting the ND filters on to try and slow it down. I can just tell the composition isn't working. So I think it's time to try something else. Yeah, not working. Okay, so I am going to do 2 shots here right now, and I'm keeping this pretty simple. I've got my tripod set up here. Basically it's boats, water, the rocky walls, the ocean beyond, and the sky. And I'm going to do 2 images, because I'm going to do one which is going to be a fast exposure. That's going to freeze the boats, that's going to leave all of the textures and the waves movement and everything else in the water. And that's kind of one way of approaching this image. And then the other way I'm going to do it is I'm going to go for a long exposure. Now that's going to blur the boats, it's going to blur the water. And if you're going to blur something that's moving like the boats, you're going to kind of make it a bit of an abstract. You've got to really blur it. There's no point just having a little bit of blur, because that just looks like a mistake. So if you're going to blur it, make it really blurry so that it's obvious that it was intended to be that way. But let's start off with the standard exposure. I've got the 16 to 35 lens, 35mm, f11, ISO 64, and 1/100th of a second. And you know, it's an okay image. It's nothing particularly special, but it's okay. Now I'm going to go for the long exposure. Okay, so I've put on a circular polarizer. That's giving me about 2 stops extra exposure time. And then a 10-stop ND filter. My 10 stops is almost 11 stops. So it's giving me around 13 stops. And it looks like around 2 3/4 minutes, 2 minutes 45 seconds should give me a reasonable exposure. So I've got that cooking right now. Yeah, okay, that didn't work. Miscalculated the exposure on the sky. The bottom of the scene was fine, but the sky was blown out. So what I've done is I've put in a 2-stop hard-edged ND grad, and I'm doing the shot again. And I think I'm just going to pull that exposure time back to about 2.5 minutes, and hopefully that will give us a slightly different looking, kind of an abstract-y motion blur type image. We'll see. Okay, that's certainly different, and I'm going to show that to you whether it works or not. And actually, tell me which one you prefer. Do you prefer the standard exposure with everything, you know, kind of still, the boat's not blurry, but all the texture in the water? Or do you like that kind of abstract feel that I've got with the second shot, the long exposure? Let me know what you think in the comments. Okay, so I finished off around by the boats and I decided to come back around to the beach that I was at earlier. Now I said that that beach was probably more of a dawn location, sunrise location. But you know what? We've got some really nice waves. There's some high thin cloud out there that might pick up some colours as we get closer to sunset. So I think it's worth trying a shot or two here. And I'm just trying to work out what's best to do. The challenge is these waves are coming in quite unpredictably. Some of them are coming up sort of 3-4 metres further up than others. So I'm going to have to try to not be too far into the waves, otherwise the tripod's going to get knocked around, the sand underneath it's going to get washed out, and I'm going to get spray and all sorts of other things on the lens. But there is a couple of possible compositions here that I'm going to have a look at. So I'm going to have a play around and then I'll get back to you. Okay, I've set up a composition on the beach. My tripod is on the sand and I'm having to be really careful because what's happening is if the waves are washing up around the tripod legs, they're washing the sand out from underneath the feet, and I haven't brought anything that I can put underneath, and there's no suitably sized pebbles here to use either. It's not too much of a problem so long as I keep an eye on the fact that I've got the scene still level. I'm using a couple of rocks in the foreground, then the beach going out, waves coming in, and then I've got the bigger rock sort of on the top left hand third of the frame. And I'm basically just shooting lots and lots of images of the waves breaking both around the rock in the distance and the rock in the foreground. So I'm shooting at about 24mm on the 16-35 lens. F11, and I'm just adjusting my exposure now. I've been shooting at about 1/6 of a second and I'm going to about 1/3 of a second now. Just because it's getting a bit darker. I've got 2-stop hard-edged ND Grad, which is just darkening the sky a little bit. And I'm just watching the waves and every so often hitting the shutter release, which is a cable release. Okay, I've adjusted my composition just a bit, lowered the tripod a little bit more, and I've zoomed in just a little tiny bit, about 28mm. I think that's better. And it's just watching for the big waves. Okay, so I've just been concentrating on shooting images and not getting soaking wet as the waves came in, and I'm hoping I've got something worthwhile from this, because I think those waves breaking on the rock in the distance and on the sort of washing around the rocks in the foreground could make for a really nice shot. It's a shame that we didn't get some really nice sunset colours. We got a little bit of pinkish tones in there, which hopefully you've seen in some of the video that I've shot, but it's not really been vibrant. But that's okay. I still think it should make for a nice image. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, and if you haven't already hit the subscribe button, now would be a great time to do so. As always, I appreciate any likes or shares you care to give me, and I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think. Comments down below. And so that's it. I'm going to pack up, head for home, and until the next video, thank you very much for watching. Bye.